The gun was cold. Maya could feel it, even through the black fabric of her uniform, even through the fear shaking her whole body. She could feel the cold metal pressing against the back of her head. The restaurant was empty now. The chairs were still turned upside down on the tables from when she'd been cleaning up. The mop was still leaning against the wall. The lights were still on, buzzing quietly like nothing was wrong. But everything was wrong.
Where is it?
The man's voice was low.
Slow.
Like he had all the time in the world. Like he enjoyed this. Maya's hands were shaking so badly she could barely keep them raised above her head. Her apron was still tied around her waist. There was still a pen behind her ear. Just 30 minutes ago, she had been wiping down tables, humming to herself, thinking about the $47 in tips she'd made that night. Now she was on her knees on a cold kitchen floor with a gun pointed at her skull. I don't know what you're talking about, she whispered. Wrong answer, the man said. And then the lights went out. But wait, how did a regular waitress end up here? Let's go back. Back to where it all started. Back to the wallet. Maya Colton was 26 years old, and she was tired. Not just the kind of tired you feel after a long shift. She was deeply tired, the kind that settles in your bones when you've been working double shifts for 3 years straight, sending money home to your mama in Georgia, and trying to keep the lights on in a studio apartment the size of a parking space. She worked at Bella Notte, a fancy Italian restaurant in the heart of downtown Chicago. It was the kind of place where the pasta cost $40 a plate and the customers barely looked at you when they ordered. The kind of place where the chandeliers sparkled and the tablecloths were white as snow, but the staff bathroom hadn't been fixed in 6 months. Maya didn't complain. She couldn't afford to. She was good at her job, too. She remembered every order without writing it down. She smiled even when customers were rude. She refilled water glasses before anyone had to ask. Her manager, a sweaty, red-faced man named Gerald, always scheduled her for the busiest nights because he knew she could handle it. That Thursday night was busy. Really busy. A private dinner party in the back room. 12 men, all in dark suits, all speaking quietly. They didn't mix with the regular customers. They had their own section, their own server, which was supposed to be Danny, the senior waiter. But Danny called in sick, and Gerald panicked, and Maya got pulled from her regular tables. Just keep their glasses full, and don't ask questions, Gerald whispered to her, sweating through his shirt collar. What kind of party is this? Maya asked. The kind where you smile and say nothing, Gerald said. Then he walked away very fast. Maya had learned not to push Gerald for answers. She picked up her tray and walked into the private room. The men were seated around a long oval table. Dark wood. Candles. The kind of setup that made everything look like an old movie. They were talking when she walked in, but the moment she pushed through the door, they all stopped. 12 pairs of eyes on her. Maya kept her face calm.
Smile. Move.
Don't stare. At the head of the table sat a man who looked different from the others. Older. Maybe 60, maybe older. Silver hair, combed back perfectly. A dark suit that probably cost more than Maya made in a month. He had a face like carved stone, strong jaw, deep-set eyes, the kind of man who didn't smile easily. His name, she would later learn, was Vincent Reno. But that night, she didn't know his name. She just knew he was clearly the most important man in the room because everyone else kept glancing at him before they spoke, like they needed his permission to breathe. Maya moved quietly around the table, refilling glasses, taking empty plates, staying invisible the way Gerald had trained her. The men mostly ignored her. Good. That's how she preferred it. The dinner lasted almost 2 hours. When it finally ended and the men began to leave, Maya started clearing the table. She stacked plates, collected napkins, wiped down the surface with a damp cloth. And that's when she saw it. Under the table, near the chair where the silver-haired man had been sitting. A wallet. Black leather, thick and clearly expensive. It had a small gold emblem on the corner that caught the light. Maya picked it up. She almost opened it. She was going to check for an ID so she could return it, but something stopped her. An instinct. A little voice in the back of her head said, "Be careful." She tucked the wallet into her apron pocket instead. She would give it to Gerald. He would know what to do. But Gerald was gone. His office was locked. The restaurant was closing. Maya stood in the empty dining room holding the wallet and not knowing what to do. She probably should have left it at the front desk. She probably should have put it in the lost and found box. She probably should have done 100 different things. Instead, she took it home. Not to steal it. She told herself that very clearly as she walked to the bus stop, the wallet heavy in her coat pocket. She just wanted to look inside, find a name, find a number, and return it in the morning. Simple. Back in her tiny apartment, she sat on the edge of her bed and opened the wallet. The first thing she noticed was the cash. Thick stacks of $100 bills, more money than she'd ever held in her hands. She didn't count it, but it had to be thousands. Thousands. Her heart hammered. She kept going. There was a driver's license. Vincent A. Reno. The photo matched the silver-haired man. An address in a neighborhood she recognized as one of the richest parts of the city. There were credit cards. Black ones. The kind regular people never see. And then, tucked behind everything else, she found a folded piece of paper. She unfolded it slowly. It was a list of names. Just names, 12 of them, written in neat handwriting. Some had small check marks next to them. Some had question marks. And next to 3 of the names, someone had written a single word in red ink.
Done.
Maya stared at the list for a long time. She didn't know what it meant. She told herself it could mean anything. Maybe it was a guest list.
Maybe it was business contacts.
Maybe done just meant a deal was finished. But her hands were shaking again. She folded the paper carefully, put it back in the wallet, and placed the wallet on her nightstand. She would return it first thing in the morning. She would call the restaurant, ask Gerald for help, and that would be that. She turned off the light and tried to sleep. She couldn't. At 2 a.m., her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Silence on the other end. Then breathing. Then a voice, smooth and quiet, like velvet over glass. "We know you have it, Maya." Her whole body went cold. "Return it. Tonight. Don't talk to anyone. Don't open it again." The call ended. Maya sat frozen in the dark, her phone still pressed to her ear, the wallet glowing faintly on the nightstand like it was alive. They knew her name. How did they know her name? She grabbed the wallet and shoved it under her mattress. Then she sat with her back against the wall, knees to her chest, staring at the door, waiting, listening, heart pounding so loud she could hear it. She didn't sleep at all. By morning, she had a plan. A simple one. She would go straight to Bellinate, find Gerald, and hand over the wallet. She would say she found it, she brought it for safekeeping, and she was returning it now.
Clean.
Simple.
Done.
But when she arrived at the restaurant at 9 a.m., the front door was shattered. Police tape stretched across the entrance. A neighbor told her Gerald had been found unconscious in his office. And someone had been through every drawer, every cabinet, every corner of the restaurant. They were looking for something. Maya stood on the sidewalk, the wallet burning a hole through her bag, and she understood, really understood, for the first time.
She was already in it.
That night, when she went back to collect her things, thinking the coast was clear, that's when the man found her. That's when the lights went out. That's when she ended up on her knees on the cold kitchen floor with a gun to her head. And the worst part? She still didn't know what was really in that wallet. The lights came back on. All at once, bright, buzzing, blinding. Maya blinked hard, still on her knees, still shaking, her hands still raised above her head like she was surrendering to an army she couldn't see. The man with the gun stepped around in front of her slowly, like he was taking a walk in the park, like this was Tuesday for him. He was big, not tall, but wide, the kind of wide that comes from years of hard living. His nose had been broken at least twice. His knuckles were scarred. He wore a plain gray jacket that did nothing to hide the fact that he was built like a refrigerator. He crouched down to her level and looked her in the eyes. He was brown, flat, empty, like looking through windows into a house where nobody lived. "You scared?" he asked. Maya said nothing. Her jaw was clenched, so tight her teeth ached. "Smart girl," he said. "Fear keeps people alive." He stood back up and tucked the gun casually into the back of his waistband like it was a TV remote. I'm not here to hurt you, Maya. I'm here to deliver a message. From who? She managed to whisper. He almost smiled. Almost. From the man whose wallet you took home last night. His name was Bruno. He didn't offer a last name, and Maya did not ask for one. He sat across from her at one of the restaurant's small tables, the same tables she had wiped down 1,000 times, and he folded his big scarred hands together like a man about to explain a math problem. Mr. Reno wants his property back, Bruno said. All of it. The wallet. The cash. Everything inside. You return it tonight, nothing happens. You go back to your life. You forget this whole thing. Maya's hands were still trembling, but her voice was getting steadier. Anger was starting to replace fear, which she knew was probably stupid, but she couldn't help it. I was going to return it, she said. I came here this morning to give it to Gerald, and then Gerald was… She stopped. What happened to Gerald? Bruno looked at her for a long moment. Gerald is fine. He got in the way of some questions. He'll wake up with a headache and a new appreciation for minding his business. You hurt him. I delivered a message, Bruno said flatly. Same as I'm doing now. The difference is, Gerald didn't have what we were looking for. You do. He leaned forward slightly.
So,
do we have an understanding? Maya stared at him. Here was the thing about Maya Colton that most people didn't know, because she was quiet, because she smiled, because she refilled your water glass and said yes, sir, and of course, ma'am. Most people mistook her for someone who simply went along with things. She did not simply go along with things. I want something in return, she said. Bruno blinked. That clearly was not what he expected. Excuse me? You heard me. Maya straightened her back. Her heart was absolutely screaming inside her chest, but she kept her face steady. I kept that wallet safe. I didn't open most of it. I didn't call the police.
I didn't tell anybody.
I stayed quiet. That has value. Bruno stared at her like she had just started speaking a different language. You're negotiating with me, he said slowly. I'm having a conversation, Maya said. There's a difference. A long silence stretched between them. The restaurant hummed quietly around them, the hum of refrigerators, the distant sound of traffic outside, the buzz of the lights. Then Bruno did something she didn't expect. He laughed. Not a mean laugh. A real one. Surprised and short, like it jumped out of him before he could catch it. He shook his head and pulled out his phone. I'm calling Mr. Reno, he said. Vincent Reno arrived 40 minutes later. Maya had expected to be terrified all over again. She had spent those 40 minutes sitting at that table, talking herself in and out of running, staying, screaming, crying. But by the time the black car pulled up outside and Vincent Reno walked through the broken front door of Bellinate, something strange had settled over her.
Calm.
Not the calm of someone who wasn't afraid. The calm of someone who had decided to be brave anyway. He looked exactly as she remembered. Silver hair. Stone face. Dark suit. But up close, really close, in the harsh light of the empty restaurant, she noticed things she hadn't noticed during dinner. The tiredness around his eyes. The slight stiffness in the way he moved. The tiny scar that ran along his jawline. Old and pale. He sat down across from her. Bruno stood behind him like a shadow. Vincent Reno looked at Maya for a long moment without speaking. The kind of look that tried to figure out exactly what kind of person you were. Bruno tells me you want to negotiate, he said. His voice was deep and even. I want my job back, Maya said. Gerald is in the hospital because of your people. This restaurant is going to be a crime scene for a week. I lose tips every day it's closed. I want compensation. Vincent raised one eyebrow. Just one. And a guarantee, Maya continued. Your word that once I give you the wallet, I'm left alone. No more visits. No more messages. No more men showing up in dark restaurants with guns. Another long silence. You're not afraid of me, Vincent said. I'm absolutely terrified of you, Maya said honestly. But being afraid doesn't mean I have to act like it. Something shifted in his stone face. Not a smile, not quite, but something close to respect. The same way a man respects a small dog that refuses to back down from a large one. The wallet, he said. Where is it? Somewhere safe, Maya said. Not here. Not on me. His eyes narrowed slightly. Smart, he said quietly, almost to himself. Then he did something that made Bruno visibly tense. He reached into his jacket pocket and placed a phone on the table between them. A brand new phone, still in a slim case. My direct number is saved there, Vincent said. You call me when you're ready to make the exchange.
Tonight.
Before midnight. Maya looked at the phone, then at him. And my conditions? I'll consider them. That's not a yes. The corner of his mouth moved.
No.
It isn't. He stood up, straightening his jacket with the practiced ease of a man who had been powerful for so long it had become a physical habit. But you're still alive, and I'm still talking to you. For someone in your position, that's worth something. He walked out. Bruno followed. The black car disappeared into the Chicago night. Maya sat alone in the broken restaurant, the phone on the table in front of her, and she realized her hands had finally stopped shaking. Then her own phone buzzed. A text. Unknown number.
Different from the one last night.
She opened it. Don't give it back. The list inside is worth more than your life. A friend. Maya read it 3 times. She looked at the phone Vincent had left her. She looked at her own phone. She looked at the door they had walked out of. The list inside is worth more than your life. She thought about those 3 names with the word done written in red beside them.
Done.
What did done mean? She pulled up a browser on her own phone and typed in the first name from the list. She had memorized it without meaning to. The way your brain grabs things it knows are dangerous. The search results are loaded. The first result was a news article from 8 months ago. The man, a city official, had been found dead. Ruled an accident.
Case closed.
Hands shaking again now. Worse than before. She searched for the second name. Another article. A lawyer.
Dead.
14 months ago. Also ruled an accident. The third name.
Gone.
Same story. Same word. Accident. 3 names. 3 dead people. All accidents. All connected by a little red word in a dead man's handwriting.
Done.
Maya sat very still in the humming, empty restaurant. The wallet wasn't just a wallet. The list wasn't just a list. And Vincent Reno wasn't just a rich man who'd lost his wallet at dinner. She had stumbled into something enormous. Something dark. Something that had already swallowed 3 people whole and barely noticed. She picked up Vincent's phone. She picked up her own phone. She stared at the mysterious text from the unknown friend. And she realized the most terrifying thing of all. She had to choose a side. Before midnight.
Who sent that text? What is really on that list?
And what happens when Maya makes the wrong choice? Maya sat in that empty restaurant for a long time. The phone Vincent left her sat on the table like a small bomb. Her own phone sat beside it, the mysterious text still glowing on the screen. Don't give it back. The list inside is worth more than your life. A friend. A friend.
Right.
Because friends always contacted you from unknown numbers at night in broken restaurants after Mafia bosses left you their personal phone number. Totally normal.
Completely fine.
Maya laughed. It came out a little unhinged, bouncing off the empty walls. She covered her mouth with her hand and stopped. She needed to think. She pulled the wallet out from the inside of her coat. Yes, she had brought it. She wasn't stupid enough to tell Vincent it was somewhere safe and then leave it at home under a mattress. If Bruno had come to her job, Bruno could have come to her apartment. The wallet needed to stay on her body until she figured out what to do with it. She opened it again, found the folded paper, unfolded it carefully, like it might shatter. 12 names. 3 with red ink beside them.
Done.
She stared at the other 9 names, 9 people who were still alive, presumably still walking around the city completely unaware that their names were written on a piece of paper in a dead man's handwriting inside a Mafia boss's wallet. A dead man's handwriting. She froze. She looked at the driver's license again. Vincent A. Reno. That was his wallet. His ID. His money. So, whose handwriting was this? Vincent hadn't written this list himself. The handwriting was different from the neat signature on the back of his credit cards. Someone else had written this list. Someone who had access to Vincent's wallet. Someone close to him. And then it hit her like cold water. This list had been planted. Someone had slipped this paper into Vincent's wallet and then made sure the wallet ended up on that restaurant floor where anyone, would find it. She was never supposed to keep the wallet. She was supposed to find it, return it immediately, and Vincent's people would search it and find the paper. And then what? Her head was spinning. She needed help. Real help. Not a mysterious text from a friend. Not Bruno and his flat, empty eyes. Not Gerald, who was currently in a hospital bed with someone else's headache. She thought of one person. Darnell Colton was Maya's older brother, and he was the most annoyingly careful person she had ever met in her life. He wore his seatbelt in parked cars. He read the full terms and conditions before clicking agree. He had a go-bag packed by his front door for emergencies, which Maya had always teased him about mercilessly. She was not teasing him now. She called him from a payphone 2 blocks from the restaurant. She had seen enough movies to know that cell phones could be tracked, and she was not taking any chances. He picked up on the second ring. Maya? It's almost midnight. Why are you? Darnell.
Don't talk.
Just listen. She told him everything. All of it. The wallet, the list, Bruno, Vincent, the mysterious text. She talked fast, and she kept looking over her shoulder the whole time. When she finished, there was a long silence. Maya, Darnell said very quietly. I know. You picked up a Mafia boss's wallet. I know. And you took it home. I know, Darnell. And then you negotiated with him. I panicked and got brave at the same time. It happens. Can we focus, please? Another silence. She could hear him breathing.
Could hear him thinking.
Good. She needed him to think. The text, he said finally. The friend. That's your key. Somebody set this whole thing up. Somebody planted that list, and they needed a random person to find it. Someone with no connection to Reno. Someone who'd be scared enough to keep quiet but smart enough to notice what was on that paper. They needed me, Maya said slowly. They needed someone. A pause. But now they've got you. And they're watching. Which means they saw Bruno come. They saw Reno come. They know you didn't hand the wallet over. So what do I do? You reply to that text, Darnell said. And you find out who your so-called friend really is. She replied from her own phone because she had no other choice.
Who are you?
She stood under the pale yellow light of the payphone and waited. 1 minute.
2. 5.
Then her phone buzzed. Someone who has been building a case against Vincent Reno for 3 years. Those 3 names on the list are victims. We have evidence, but we need that paper. It's the only thing written in the handwriting of Reno's former accountant, a man who disappeared 6 months ago. That paper proves Reno ordered those deaths. Meet me. Tonight.
Come alone.
An address followed. Maya stared at it. A case. Evidence. Former accountant. This was bigger than she had even imagined. This wasn't just organized crime. This was murder. 3 murders, documented in the handwriting of a man who was probably dead because he knew too much. And she was holding the only proof. She typed back, How do I know I can trust you? The reply came fast. You don't. But ask yourself, Reno wants that wallet back tonight. If those names on the list meant nothing, why would he send Bruno? Why would he come himself? He knows what's on that paper. And he needs it destroyed before anyone else sees it. Maya looked at Vincent's phone sitting in her coat pocket. Midnight was in 47 minutes. She made a decision. The address led her to a parking garage on the west side of downtown. 3rd floor. It was the kind of place that felt abandoned even when it wasn't. Concrete and shadows and the distant sound of cars below. Maya walked up the ramp slowly, her footsteps echoing. A figure stepped out from behind a pillar. She almost ran. But then the figure stepped into the light, and Maya stopped completely. It was a woman. Late 40s. Natural hair pulled back tight. She wore a dark coat and carried herself like someone who had spent years being underestimated and had stopped caring about it a long time ago. She had a badge clipped to her belt. Federal badge. Maya Colton, the woman said. Not a question. My name is Agent Renee Carmichael. I've been watching Vincent Reno for 3 years. She paused. And right now, you're holding the only thing that can put him away for the rest of his life. Maya exhaled slowly. You planted the list. Renee didn't blink. The accountant, a man named Philip Osei, came to us 6 months ago. He had written that list himself, documentation of orders he had witnessed. He wanted protection in exchange for testimony. Her jaw tightened. Reno found out before we could move him. Philip disappeared. We never found him. Done, Maya whispered. Renee's eyes sharpened. What? The red ink, next to 3 of the names. It said done. Maya swallowed. Is Philip's name on that list? A long silence. Yes, Renee said quietly. It is. The weight of that one word pressed down on Maya's chest like a stone. So what happens now? Maya asked. I give you the paper, you arrest Reno? It's not that simple. Renee stepped closer, lowering her voice even though they were completely alone. Reno has people everywhere. Police, city officials, judges. If we move too early, the case gets buried, and you become a loose end. She looked at Maya steadily. I need you to go back to Reno. Make the exchange. But before you hand over the wallet, you want me to make a copy of the list, Maya said. Renee reached into her coat and produced a slim device, a small scanner, the kind that fit in a palm. 1 pass. 10 seconds. Then you hand over the wallet and walk away clean. Maya looked at the scanner. I looked at the badge. Looked at this woman who had apparently been fighting Vincent Reno for 3 years and was now asking a 26-year-old waitress to do what federal agents apparently couldn't. And if Reno finds out? Maya asked. Renee held her gaze. He won't. You don't know that. No, Renee admitted. I don't. At least she was honest. Maya's phone buzzed. She looked down. Vincent's message. 1 word.
Time.
47 minutes had passed without her noticing. Midnight had arrived. She looked at the scanner in Renee's hand. She looked at Vincent's phone on her own. She looked up at the dark Chicago sky visible through the open side of the parking garage, city lights bleeding into the clouds, the whole enormous city completely unaware that one tired waitress was standing in a concrete garage deciding the fate of a very powerful and very dangerous man. She took the scanner. If something goes wrong, Maya said, you better come running. I'll be right outside, Renee said. Maya nodded once, turned, started walking back down the ramp. Maya. She stopped. You're braver than you know, Renee said. Maya didn't turn around. I'm terrified, she said. I know, Renee said softly. That's what makes it brave. She called Bruno from Vincent's phone. He answered immediately. Ready, she said. Good, Bruno said. There's a car outside your location already. Maya's blood turned to ice. They had been watching her the whole time. The question was, had they seen Renee? Maya is walking into the lion's den. The exchange is happening. But has Vincent already figured out her plan? And what happens when everything goes wrong all at once? The black car was a long, silent thing. It pulled up to the bottom of the parking garage ramp like it had grown out of the concrete itself. No headlights. No sound except the low purr of an engine that cost more than Maya's entire apartment building. The window rolled down. Bruno. He looked at her the way he always looked at her, flat, empty, patient. Like a man who had waited for many things in his life and had stopped feeling anything about the waiting a long time ago. Get in, he said. Maya got in. The scanner was tucked inside her bra, pressed flat against her ribs. She had tested it 3 times in the parking garage while Renee watched. 10 seconds, 1 pass, done. She just needed 30 seconds alone with the wallet before she handed it over. 30 seconds. That was all. She could do this. She had to do this. The car moved through downtown Chicago like a ghost, sliding through late-night streets, past glowing storefronts and empty intersections. Maya watched the city pass outside her window, and she thought about Philip Osei. A man she had never met. A man who had sat with information so dangerous it had killed him. A man who had written 12 names on a piece of paper and hidden it in a wallet, hoping someone, someday, would find it and understand. She understood now. She pressed her arm gently against her ribs, feeling the hard edge of the scanner. Hold on, Philip, she thought. Almost there. They drove for 20 minutes. The neighborhood changed around her. Quieter, darker, the buildings getting larger and further apart. They turned through a gate and down a long private driveway lined with bare winter trees. At the end of the driveway sat a house that looked less like a home and more like a statement. 3 stories. Stone facade. Every window lit from inside. The car stopped. Bruno got out and opened her door. Maya stepped onto the gravel and looked up at the house. Okay, she told herself. Okay. Vincent Reno was waiting in a room that looked like a library, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a fireplace going strong, 2 leather chairs positioned in front of it like a conversation had been planned. He was standing when she entered, hands clasped behind his back, looking into the fire. He didn't turn around immediately. Miss Colton, he said. Sit down. Maya sat. She kept her back straight, kept her hands loose in her lap, kept her breathing steady. Vincent turned and sat across from her. He looked at her for a long moment, that same measuring look from the restaurant, like he was reading a document and not quite sure what language it was written in.
The wallet, he said.
My conditions first, Maya said. Bruno, standing by the door, made a sound, not quite a word, more like the sound a person makes when they can't believe what they're hearing. Vincent raised a hand and Bruno went silent immediately. You're consistent, Vincent said to Maya. I'll give you that. I told you what I wanted. My job back, compensation for lost wages, and a guarantee that after tonight I never hear from you again. Maya met his eyes. Those are simple things. Fair things. And if I say no, then I walk out that door, and you don't get your wallet. You walked into my house. And I can walk out of it, Maya said. Unless you're planning to stop me, which would make you a man who threatens waitresses. And I don't think that's the kind of man you want to be. She had no idea where these words were coming from. Some deep, stubborn part of her that had spent 26 years being underestimated and was absolutely done with it. Vincent stared at her. Then slowly, genuinely, he smiled. It transformed his whole face. The stone cracked and something almost human came through the gap. It lasted only a moment, but she saw it. Your job is waiting for you, he said quietly. 2 weeks compensation. And after tonight, nothing. You don't exist to me. He leaned forward slightly.
But Maya.
If you ever speak about this evening to anyone ever, that arrangement changes. Do you understand me? Perfectly, Maya said. She reached into her coat and placed the wallet on the small table between the 2 chairs. Vincent looked at it but didn't move to take it. Open it, he said. Show me everything is there. Maya's heartbeat spiked so hard she felt it in her throat. She had been counting on having a moment alone to run the scanner before handing it over. But he wanted her to open it right here.
Right now.
With Bruno 3 feet away. She opened the wallet.
Cash. Cards.
License. She lifted the flap where the paper was folded. It was there. Everything is there, she said. Her voice was completely steady. She had no idea how. Vincent nodded. He reached forward and took the wallet. He didn't open it himself, just held it in both hands for a moment, like a man reunited with something precious. His shoulders dropped slightly. Just slightly. A tiny exhale of relief he probably didn't know he was showing. He stood up. The meeting was ending. This was her only chance. Wait, Maya said.
He paused.
I want to ask you something. She stood too, and as she did, she shifted slightly, just a natural, conversational shift, turning her body a quarter turn, her right hand moving toward her coat pocket like she was reaching for something, and in that half second of misdirection, her left hand pressed flat against her ribs. The scanner was already in her palm. She had palmed it during the drive without even realizing she'd made the decision. Her thumb found the button. She pressed it. Keep talking. Did you ever think about what happens to regular people? People who just stumble into something they were never supposed to see. Vincent looked at her. What do you mean? I mean people like me. She counted silently. 3, 4, 5. People who are just trying to get through the week. Pay rent. Send money home.
6, 7, 8.
Do you ever think about what your world does to people like that? Sometimes, Vincent said. He sounded almost sincere.
9, 10.
She moved her left hand back to her side.
Smooth.
Natural.
Done.
I think about it now, she said. More than I'd like to. Vincent looked at her for a long moment. Something moved behind his eyes, complicated and old and heavy. Go home, Maya, he said quietly. Bruno drove her back to the edge of her neighborhood in silence. When the car finally stopped and she stepped out onto the familiar cracked sidewalk, she felt her legs almost give beneath her. She grabbed a streetlight pole and held on for a second, breathing the cold Chicago air in huge gulps. Her phone buzzed immediately. Renee, did you get it? Maya typed back with shaking fingers. Yes. 3 seconds of nothing. Then, where are you? She typed her intersection. Don't move. 2 black SUVs appeared within 4 minutes. Federal plates. Renee jumped out of the first one before it fully stopped, striding toward Maya with the focused energy of someone who had been waiting 3 years for this exact moment. Give me the scanner. Maya handed it over. Renee plugged it into a device one of her agents held out. A screen lit up. The image loaded, clear, sharp, every name visible, the red ink unmistakable even on a digital scan. Renee exhaled. Long and slow. Philip's handwriting, she said softly, almost to herself.
We can verify it.
We can authenticate it. She looked up. Her eyes were bright. This is enough. This is finally enough. She looked at Maya. You did it, Renee said. Maya leaned against the streetlight she was still holding and laughed. A real laugh, exhausted and shaky and absolutely genuine. I was terrified the entire time. I know, Renee said. I was watching on the tracker and I nearly called it off twice. She paused. How did you get the scan with him right there? Distraction, Maya said simply. I've been a waitress for 3 years. You learn to do 6 things at once while people look straight through you. Renee shook her head slowly. Then she did something Maya didn't expect. She reached out and squeezed Maya's shoulder, not a federal agent gesture, a human one. Go home, she said. Sleep. In about 72 hours, you're going to see something on the news. And you're going to know it was you. 71 hours later, Maya was on her couch in her tiny apartment, eating cereal for dinner, when the breaking news alert lit up her phone. Federal authorities arrest Vincent Reno on 3 counts of murder for hire and multiple racketeering charges. Sources cite newly authenticated documentary evidence. She put her cereal down. She sat very still. Outside her window, Chicago kept moving, horns and sirens, and the rumble of the city that never fully slept. 3 people had their justice tonight, and didn't even know it. Philip Osei, wherever he was, had finally been heard. Maya picked her cereal back up. She had a double shift tomorrow. Tips weren't going to earn themselves. And that, right there, is the thing about ordinary people. They don't set out to change the world. They just pick up a wallet. They just tell the truth. They just refuse to back down when everything inside them is screaming to run. Maya Colton was a waitress. And she brought down a monster. Not because she was special, but because she was brave enough to keep going one terrifying step at a time. If this story moved you, shocked you, or kept you on the edge of your seat, please subscribe to this channel to support our growth. Every subscriber means we can keep bringing you stories like this one. Share this with someone who loves a good story. We'll see you in the next one. Black Heart.